Guten Morgen,
Guten Abend.
Guten Tag, and in a previous video, we reacted to the German language, and people said that Bavarian language is very different from German language, and that it wasn't represented well in the video, so now I decided to do a video comparing German and Bavarian by the same Lang Focus YouTube channel. Yes. So, let's get started.
Let's
Hallo.
go.
Hallo.
Okay.
Servus.
Servus!
Welcome to the Lang Focus channel,
In Bavarian,
and my
we say
name is
servus.
Paul. Today we're going to compare Standard German and Bavarian, a German dialect that's so different from Standard German that most other German speakers find it difficult to understand. Bavarian is spoken in the state of Bavaria in southeastern Germany, as well as in most of Austria and South
Italy?
Tyrol, Italy.
They speak Bavarian in South Tyrol, Italy. I didn't know that. I know Austria. I thought in Switzerland they were speaking some Bavarian too, but maybe I'm wrong.
Because it includes most speakers in Austria, you may hear it referred to as Austro-Bavarian.
Austro-Bavarian.
It's a group of Upper German
Austro-Bavarian.
dialects, or Oberdeutsch, while Standard German is based largely on Central German dialects. There are
Do
differences
you remember why it's called upper and lower? German?
Because of the location?
The mountain, yeah. It's upper because it's higher in altitude. That's why. It's not because it's, yeah.
in
That's
all
it.
aspects of the language, including pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. But of course, Bavarian speakers can also speak Standard German, but with their own characteristic Bavarian accent. Bavarian is spoken along a sliding scale with Standard German, and its speakers mix it with varying degrees of Standard German depending on the situation and social context. For example, they may speak full-on Bavarian with their family and close friends, Standard German with some dialectal elements with acquaintances, and Standard German at a business meeting.
This is like
This
you and
sliding
me.
scale between
I speak French. If I speak French with my friend like I speak with someone in Europe, nobody will understand me because I'm from Canada and I speak French as a first language. And Suji, we are in the northeast of Thailand. If she speak Isan, which is her like dialect of Thai,
Lao?
yeah, Lao language. If you speak full on how you speak to your French people from Bangkok, are they gonna understand you?
Some word.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because it's popular this day.
Yeah.
Bavarian and Standard German is sometimes compared to the one between Scots and Standard English in Scotland. It's
Exactly.
also worth noting that in large cities
We,
like
in Canada, we are called the Scottish of French because of our accent that can be very thick or pronounced.
Munich, there are many people who move there from other parts of Germany and from around the world, so the speech there is normally closer to Standard German.
München.
Bavarian can be further broken down into three groups: Northern Bavarian, Central Bavarian, and Southern Bavarian.
Whoa.
It has no standard form or standardized spelling, and across these three groups there are numerous local varieties that somewhat differ from each other. So in order to compare with Standard German, we'll focus on one particular variety. The dialect Oberbayerisch, spoken in Upper Bavaria near Munich. Because Bavarian differs from one area to another, and people mix it with Standard German to varying degrees, some people may say, "Hey, I don't say it that way," or "Hey, I say it both ways." That's to be expected, because people use non-standard dialects in different ways. But hopefully these examples will give you a general idea of how Bavarian differs from Standard German. Pronunciation. R is often trilled in Bavarian, whereas it's normally a uvular fricative in German. For example, the word for rain in Standard German
Regen.
and in Bavarian.
Ring.
Also noted,
What? Regen. Ring.
Regen. What is it?
Ring?
Ring?
Yeah, you can see on the right how it's pronounced, like on the right side.
Ring?
this is what happens to the G sound. The E vowel after the G is
Ren.
reduced or basically dropped, and G becomes nasalized since it comes before N.
Okay.
So it's pronounced ng.
Ring.
But the biggest difference in
Ring.
Bavarian is its vowels. For example, A becomes O. In Standard German,
Dach.
meaning roof, becomes,
Doch,
Door.
Wasser.
meaning water, becomes,
Wasser.
Wasser.
especially
They speak like I speak French. They change the word. Wasser.
Wasser.
meaning water, becomes,
a Wasser.
Was.
especially
Wasser.
distinctive is Bavarian
Wasser.
diphthongs.
Wasser.
It has different diphthongs from Standard German and more diphthongs than Standard German. I in Standard German
I.
often corresponds to Ohr
Ohr.
in Bavarian.
Reise.
Reise.
Journey becomes,
Roas,
Reus.
Heiß.
meaning
Heiß.
hot, becomes,
Hoas.
Was.
U or Ü often corresponds to Ua. The word for good in Standard German
gut,
and in
Gut.
Bavarian.
Gut.
Good.
And the word for must
müssen,
Müssen.
Muss.
Muss?
Why are you laughing? It sounds very different, right?
Yes.
Now I understand why in Bavaria they can understand German, but German can understand us. It's probably because, like, in Bavaria, you also learn growing up
Muss.
the German way, right? But you also, so you speak two languages at least. So people in like northern Germany, they won't speak or learn Bavarian, but you will learn it. It's exactly like me in Canada. My French, when I listen to the television, they will speak a more like international standardized French compared to I would speak it. So that's why I understand them, but they don't understand us.
E, spelled with IE, often corresponds to ja,
Yeah.
nie,
meaning never,
Nie.
becomes,
Nia.
Yeah.
kriegt,
meaning
Krieg.
get,
Krieg.
becomes.
Kriegt.
Kriegt.
Al often corresponds to oi,
Oid.
halt,
meaning stop, becomes,
Hoit.
Oid.
also,
meaning so or
Also.
thus, becomes,
Oiso.
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 einmal,
meaning once, becomes.
Amoi.
Amoy.
Il often corresponds to ui,
Beispiel,
meaning example, becomes,
A Beispiel.
gespielt,
meaning played, becomes.
Gespielt.
Yeah.
And there are other sound changes that result in ui as well, like,
Schule,
which means school, becomes.
Schui.
Shui.
Other sound changes.
Sorry?
So
Unstre-
far, it's the same language. It's just the pronunciation is like almost opposite.
E tends to be highly reduced or dropped,
vergessen,
meaning to forget,
Vergessen.
becomes.
Vergessen.
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 Ben or bun at the end of words tends to become with an M. The word for screws
Schrauben,
becomes
Raum.
Schram.
nen or n at the end of words corresponds with na in Bavarian. There's this word meaning to mean or to think.
meinen,
Meinen.
Buena.
And notice that once again, we are to think.
This is like how I speak French. I speak French the way Bavarians speak German. Moina?
meinen,
And
Buena.
notice that once again, we see the correspondence of the sounds I and ua.
Ay, wow.
You've probably noticed that Bavarian is normally spelled to reflect how it's pronounced, though its spelling isn't standardized. For example, ER in Standard German is often pronounced as a vowel without an R sound, not only in Bavarian, but colloquial Standard German as well. In Bavarian, it's normally spelled with an A. For example,
Meister,
Meister.
meaning master, and
Muesta.
Moister.
one more example,
verbinden,
meaning to connect, and
Verbinden.
vocabulary. Some very basic words are different in Bavarian. Even if they come from the same root as the standard German words, they often have different forms. You may have noticed at the beginning of the video that the words for hello are different.
hallo,
Servus.
The word for I,
ich,
It's so funny because servus, it sounds similar to cervelle in French, which means your brain. It means brain. Servus, cervelle in French, it means brain. It's very interesting.
I.
the indefinite article, in its masculine nominative singular form.
ein,
The word for you in the singular.
dich,
Dish.
Die.
Die.
Let's look at a sentence.
They shorten a lot of word in Bavarian, right? Just like we do.
And hear the sentences in this section, you'll probably notice a lot of little changes like the ones we looked at in the previous section on pronunciation. These sentences mean, I have a present for you. In Standard German,
ich habe ein Geschenk für dich,
Ich habe ein Geschenk für dich.
and in Bavarian.
Ich hab ein Geschenk für dich.
I hope a Geschenk für die. I feel like it's harder, even though there's less
Ich
word.
habe ein Geschenk für dich.
Here, notice the difference in the subject pronoun we just saw. And notice the different vowels in the
Hob.
verbs meaning have. The indefinite article is different, as we saw above. And the word for present loses its short E vowel in Bavarian, or at least it's really reduced. The preposition meaning for takes a different form, and the personal pronoun meaning you takes a different form, as we saw above. The word for me in the dative case,
mir,
Mir.
Ma.
Ma.
the word for is,
ist,
Ist.
Ist.
Is.
the word for also,
auch,
Oh,
and now a pair of sentences meaning He told me it's his birthday today too.
Today too.
In Standard German,
Sagte mir, dass heute auch sein Geburtstag ist.
Sagte mir, dass heute auch sein Geburtstag ist.
and in Bavarian.
Sagt mir, dass heut a sein Geburtstag ist.
Here we-
Sag mal, dass sein Geburtstag ist. I feel like the Bavarian is harder for me.
See the different form of the first person singular dative personal pronoun. In other words, me in the dative case. Here we see the different word for also. And here we see the difference in the third person singular form of the verb meaning to be.
The
meaning
order
in
is the
English.
same.
And looking at the other words, you'll notice some differences in pronunciation and word form that we looked at earlier. It seems that the speaker of the Bavarian sentence actually said this in the present tense, not the past tense, as some of you may have noticed. But that's okay, because we're focusing on vocabulary at the moment. Sometimes, not just different forms, but completely different words are used. These sentences mean, it's hot today, isn't it?
Isn't it?
In Standard German
Es ist heute heiß, nicht wahr?
and in Bavarian.
Es ist heiß heut, nicht wahr?
Here we see a Bavarian
Is hein net what? What?
It's hard. Yeah, no,
Why
it's,
is not is head one net what?
Es ist heiß heut, nicht wahr?
Here we-
Did he put different?
it's hard, huh? No,
Oh,
one mean
this
hot,
one.
one. Yeah.
Wait. He's still
sentences
reading
mean,
this.
it's hot
No,
today,
yeah.
isn't it? In Standard German
Es ist heute heiß, nicht wahr?
and in Bavarian.
Oh, is it what the hein net what?
Es ist heiß heut, nicht wahr?
See,
Is what high net what?
does he make this wrong?
No, it just doesn't sound the way that it looks.
Oh,
He's pronouncing the same as above, but it doesn't quite sound
Here
like.
we see a Bavarian version of the phrase,
Nicht wahr?
but an alternate word can be used instead. Gell, or,
Gell?
depending on the area. It simply means, isn't it? Yes, the weather is strange this year. In Standard German,
Ja, das Wetter ist dieses Jahr seltsam.
Ja, das Wetter ist jetzt ja seltsam.
and in Bavarian.
Ja, das Wetter ist heuer seltsam.
Notice that the standard
das Wetter ist jetzt seltsam.
is higher system.
It's not an easy language.
German phrase meaning
No,
this
the
year
weather
is,
high
Dieses Jahr.
while Bavarian has a
Dieses
different
Jahr.
word.
Heuer.
This
Higher.
word,
Hiya.
seltsam, could also be seltsam. Here we see that in Bavarian, the S is voiceless. It's not pronounced Z as in Standard German. In Standard German, the words for up or upward are
Hinauf,
meaning up there,
Hinauf,
away from your
hinauf.
current position, and
herauf.
meaning up here,
Herauf.
towards your current position. In Bavarian, the preferred words are
Aufi.
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 Alpha.
There are also cases in which both words are used in Standard German and Bavarian, but there's a preference or tendency to use one word more than the other. For example, in Bavarian, there's a tendency to use the word,
Reden,
meaning talk,
Reden.
more than
sprechen,
Reichen.
meaning speak. Another example of that is the word for
throw.
throw. In Standard German, the more common way is,
werfen,
well, in
Werfen.
Bavarian, it's
Schmeißen.
Schmeißen.
grammar. Standard
Schmeißen.
German has four
Schmeißen.
grammatical cases: nominative, accusative, genitive, and dative. Bavarian has no genitive case. Possession is shown in different ways. For example, take the phrase meaning the man's house.
The man's
in Standard
house.
German,
das Haus des Mannes.
That's how Desmond is.
Yeah.
here we see that the noun phrase is in the
Des
genitive form.
Mannes.
This definite article is in the masculine singular genitive form, and the noun has the masculine genitive singular case ending. In Bavarian, one way to say this is using
Von.
von, which means
Von.
of.
Das Haus vom Mo.
Das Haus vom Mo.
How for more.
The V is like an F, right? It's like vom Mo.
Vom is a contraction of von and
Vom.
dem, the masculine
Mo.
singular dative definite article.
The
So this is like
house
saying the
vom.
house of the man. Another way is to simply use the dative case.
Dem Mo sein Haus.
The definite
They house.
The Mose House.
article and the noun are in the dative here.
That
And then it's
house
followed by the possessive pronoun, sein. This is like saying to the man his house. Another difference involves verb tenses. In Bavarian, the past tense is not used. The perfect tense is used instead. These sentences mean I laughed.
laugh.
In Standard German,
Ich lachte,
Ich lachte.
And in Bavarian,
Ich hab gelacht.
literally,
Ich hab Glock. I have laugh. Not I laugh.
Ich hab glott.
Okay, I understand that.
Glott.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
under German,
Ich lachte.
Ich lachte.
and in Bavarian,
Ich hab gelacht.
literally,
Ich hab gelacht.
This is a sound I don't like.
Ich hab gelacht.
Ich hab glott.
Wait, let me try again.
Ich lachte.
Wait.
and in Bavarian,
Ich hab gelacht.
literally,
Ich hab gelacht.
Glott. Glott.
Ja,
Glott.
Gelacht. Gelacht.
Glott. Glott.
It's
Ich
almost-
hab glott. Ich hab glott.
Ich hab gelacht.
Ich hab glott.
I almost feel like there's an R somewhere.
Glott.
Ich hab gelacht.
Glott.
Gelacht.
Glott.
I know it's difficult for you, that sound.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's like the R in French, yeah?
Oh.
I have laughed. There are two exceptions: the verb sein, meaning to be,
Sign.
and the verb wollen, meaning
Wollen.
want. Another difference is that in Bavarian there are double negatives, which don't really occur in standard German.
We have
At
that
least
in
not double
French, too.
negatives like this, which result in a negative meaning. Here's a sentence meaning I have never heard,
Never
that,
heard
before.
that before.
In standard German,
Das habe ich noch nie gehört.
word
Das habe ich noch nie gehört.
for word it's that have I yet never heard. In Bavarian,
Das hab ich noch nie nicht gehört.
word for
Das hab ich noch nicht gehört.
Yeah.
Gehört?
So easy this.
word it's that have I yet never not heard. Again, notice that the double negative results in a negative meaning, not a positive meaning.
Not a
There are
positive.
even some triple negatives in
Triple
Bavarian.
negative.
These sentences mean because no one has any money.
Money.
Actually, they're not full sentences, they're clauses, but here we go. In standard German,
Weil keiner Geld hat.
Weil keiner Geld hat.
Well, kind of girl hat.
word for word, it's because nobody money has. And in Bavarian,
Weil keiner kein Geld nicht hat.
Weil keiner kein Geld nicht hat.
Yeah, you're right. Weil keiner kein Geld nicht hat.
So nicht and odd is both negative.
Weil keiner kein
word for
And
word, it's
koa?
because nobody
No,
no
koa
money
na.
not has.
Oh.
In English, that's kind of like saying because nobody ain't got no money, which is possible in dialectal English. In Middle High German, double negatives were normal. Bavarian seems to maintain more features of Middle High German than Standard German does. Now that we've looked at some of the differences between Bavarian and Standard German, let's look at a couple more pairs of sentences and see what we find. These sentences mean, when I arrived, they hadn't eaten yet.
Didn't yet.
In Standard German,
Als ich ankam, hatten sie noch nichts gegessen.
word for word, it's
Gegessen.
when I arrived, had they yet nothing eaten. In Bavarian,
Als ich angekommen bin, hatten sie noch nichts gegessen.
Okay, this looks like a different language.
you
Right.
been
There's nothing that looks similar in that
no
sentence.
niggas.
Yeah.
word for word, it's similar, but there's something different here, which we'll come back to in a minute. First, in the word for when, we see one of the pronunciation differences we encountered earlier. Al in Standard German
Al.
corresponds with oi in Bavarian.
Oi.
Next, we see the different subject pronouns
Yeah.
meaning I again, or at least different forms of the same pronoun. Then we see that the verb meaning arrive is conjugated differently. In Standard German, the verb is in the past tense, while in Bavarian, it's in the perfect tense, so it has an auxiliary verb. And this is its past participle. The past participle would be different in Standard German, angekommen. Next, we can see that the auxiliary verb meaning had is pronounced
Hatten.
differently. We see the correspondence of a and o, and we see the loss of the unstressed e in Bavarian. The word for yet takes a different
See,
form.
in Bavarian, they have those. How do we call it? In French, we also do that. In French Canadian, we do that a lot actually.
Next, in Bavarian, we see the word nix, which is common among
Nix.
German dialects in general, not only Bavarian. It seems to be a contraction of nichts. And again, in the final word, we see the loss of unstressed e. Another pair of sentences. These sentences mean, I think the teacher's opinion is nonsense. In Standard German,
Ich denke, die Meinung des Lehrers ist Unsinn.
word
Ich denke, die Meinung des Lehrers ist Unsinn.
for word, it's I think the opinion of the teacher,
teacher
is
is
nonsense.
nonsense.
And in Bavarian,
Ich glaub, die Meinung vom Lehrer ist ein Schmarrn.
first,
Why? When it said it in Bavarian, it's insulting. It sounds more insulting when she said that in Bavarian. Like she's insulting for real.
Ich glaub, die Meinung
Die
Iglai, die
Meinung
Meinung
vom
vom Lehrer ist
vom Lehrer ist
Schmarrn.
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 Schmarrn. Like this, like schmarrn. It sounds insulting.
First, notice that the verb meaning think is different. Both verbs, denken and glauben, are used in both Standard German and Bavarian. So you could say ich denk in Bavarian, but glauben is more common in Bavarian, while denken is more common in Standard German. Note that denken means think, while glauben means believe, but they're often used interchangeably. Next, notice the different way of showing possession. In the Standard German sentence, this noun phrase is in the genitive case, with both the definite article and the noun in the masculine singular genitive form. Remember that Bavarian has no genitive, so possession is shown with von, meaning of.
Von.
Here it's von, because it's contracted with the dative case definite article dem, which is for either masculine or neuter, by the way. And notice that the noun doesn't have the genitive ending in Bavarian. It's in the dative case. Finally, here we see that the Bavarian word for nonsense is different.
Schmarrn.
It literally
Schmarrn.
means a kind of scrambled pancake dish, which looks pretty darn delicious if you ask me. And the indefinite article here means that this is a countable noun. As we've seen, Standard German and Bavarian differ from each other in several different features of non-Bavarian.
Do you still think that it's a difficult language? German?
To be honest, Bavarian sound easier than German.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
It's shorter, maybe?
And I think it's easier to read too.
Really? I think it depends. I think to me it sounds somehow difficult, but it's an interesting, like both interesting language.
Yeah.
We've read that to other video, right? When we compare like Swedish and Estonian or Swedish and Norwegian or like Malaysian and Indonesia on our other channel. This Bavarian and German, it sound like the same language. It's just that historically, they're already pronounced as when apart from each other, but it sound the same language.
Yeah.
It's just the accent make it that they cannot understand each other all the time. To me, it's like the way I speak French in Canada versus in France. It's the same language, but because of we were separated. Although it's funny because German and Bavaria, they are not far. They are neighbor.
Yeah.
So why it sounds so different even though they are neighbor has probably like a historical reason. Yeah. So very interesting. If there's more video like this, please suggest us in the comment below. Yes. And see you very soon.